You want me to lead us into our EverPALS podcast?
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, I can do that. And this is EverPALS.
Yep.
It's going to be the most mediocre podcast you probably ever listened to for EverQuest.
Probably. But hey, it's going to be fun.
Low production value, maybe.
Totally.
I am Pokin, also known as Wes.
I am Yarnex, also known as Jason.
And I still don't think we really decided if we're going to go by our personal names or in-game names, but either way, I think they're going to go smoothly.
Yeah. I know you more as Pokin, and I think you know me more as Yarnex.
Well, I think I know you more as Polly, actually.
Yeah, there's a whole story behind that, isn't there? Using my wife's name as a character name so I could sneak away and play EverQuest without any guilt.
It might feel bad because everybody was calling you by your wife's name for so long, though.
Yeah, it was a little weird, but now I'm Yarnex, little halfling warrior.
And we both play on a Mangler server, right?
Yes, we play on the Mangler server, and we're kind of dipping our toes into the new Mischief Thornblade server, but we play on Thornblade. We just started today, actually, and just kind of dipping around in that. But yeah, we are part of a raiding guild on Mangler who raids in-game content.
Yeah, shout out to Pals.
Yay, pals.
Definitely maybe one of the best guilds I've ever been a part of. I don't know about you.
Oh, totally. It's the only guild I've been a part of on Mangler. But, even playing in live like years and years ago, this was the exact style of guild that I was in. Like, we took raiding seriously, but we still acted as a family and like resolved any of our issues like amongst ourselves.
I like that we tend not to take ourselves too seriously. It was always like that. Lots
Right.
of laughs and giggles and go and kill the content, but you're hanging out with your friends the whole time. It's really nice.
And that's kind of what I kind of like wanted to make a podcast about, is kind of like our experiences, and somebody that's new to the game and maybe they haven't been part of a guild before, like how do you find a guild, like what class should I be, like all these kind of things, kind of in a podcast in a friendly setting, very relaxed, just two guys talking about the game they played for so long.
Two pals talking
Two
about
pals.
the game.
Thank you for the correction there. Yeah, we've been playing this game both for a very long time, and plan on doing so for quite a while longer.
How long have you been playing for? I know we were trying to save some questions for each other when we started the podcast. We didn't want to waste too many. I mean, I know a little bit, but you used to start way back on Povar server, right?
Yeah, I started on Povar server and started like early in release. I didn't play in the alpha or beta, but the game was released, and I played on dial-up 56K modem using Earthlink as my ISP. If anybody remembers Earthlink from way, way long ago, back in '99, and had no idea what this game was. My friend recommended it to me, and I was immediately hooked. I would play, 5-8 hours a day, and made a Wood Elf warrior named Neonite. And
not to interrupt, but how old were you? Were you like in college or high school?
Boy, 99, I was like right around 20. Yeah, I was like 20, 21. And so I was, no, I wasn't in college. I'm in college now, funny enough, finishing a PhD, hopefully. But I had a lot of free time and enjoyed those kind of games.
So 20 years old, 1999, not much to do, just rolling a warrior. Why'd you roll warrior?
Well, so originally I rolled a ogre warrior, and had no idea what the game was, like I said, and just started running around. Ended up leaving the Farrat into the Wraith Mountains and got smashed by a hill giant. And I thought maybe ogre's not the way for me. And I liked warrior just because I'm a more like in your face kind of person. I played online games like from BBSs and stuff, and I've always liked the fighter types. So I made warrior, having no idea what that entailed for me.
Did you know that like the evil classes, how hard they would be in old classic EverQuest on live?
No, and I think a lot of people didn't know how hard they were on classic. Did you roll an evil class?
No, I've always actually been mostly kind classes, good classes.
Yeah, me too. Um,
I was always turned off by the fact that like, everybody hung out in the nice areas, but you couldn't ever like get those evil characters in there without getting crushed 100 times. And obviously, the death penalty early in live, where it was so hard to get either a res or get that experience back, or the corpse runs were vicious. It
right.
put a lot of fear into wanting to start something even harder than.
So that leans in perfectly to my, like we talked about this before, maybe talking about during podcast. Our favorite memory of playing on live, not the TLP that we play on now, but playing on live. And that is, um, I was again a Wood Elf warrior, had not a full suit, but quite a collection of crafted gear. And for those of you who don't know, crafted gear was crafted armor for warriors was a quest that you would do to get really good gear for a warrior. Not a raid gear, but really nice groupable gear. So I had that stuff, and I was making the trip from Fadeware to Antarctica. How do you say that? And
Antonica,
Antarctica. From
aka.
Butcher Block to Freeport. And you had to take boats back then. There were no translocators. You had to take boats and you had to wait around for them and get on the boat and travel and zone. What happened to me, I was zoning from Butcher Block into Ocean of Tears on the boat. And when the boat started moving, my player character was stuck. And then my player character continued to be stuck, fell off of the boat, and was proceeded to be killed by a shark. And where does your corpse go when you die in the ocean? To the bottom of the ocean. And back then you only had like, I think it was 7 days to find your corpse before it would
Yeah, I
vanish.
think you're. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you know the end of that story. I never recuperated that corpse, and
you,
all my gear was gone.
you weren't part of like a guild or anything that could help you get your
No,
corpse back. No kind
no.
players.
I was just
That's
like a
one.
casual person, and I was just in Greater Fey, and I was like, "Can someone help me find my corpse?" There were songs made about that meme, by the way, and this never happened, and ended up losing it, kind of starting over in gear.
That's really unfortunate because one of my favorite memories, or how I personally like to play the game, is to be that nice player. Give gear and stuff to the newbies and help out when I can. And I know way back on live in the early times, like kindness was just it was just one of those things that exuberant on the servers. I mean, you had your trolls, but um, you also had, I would say, 90% of the server was really geared towards helping everybody out and learning
Oh
together.
yeah, I mean, especially the environment was so unforgiving. Like you said, you didn't keep your items when you died. When you died, you went back to your bind point and you were naked. So a lot of people, sometimes you had a second set of gear that you kept in a bank, but you knew it wasn't going to be good enough to go down to the area in where you were fighting previously. So you either had to be part of a guild or reach out to those people like you talk about who were just understood how unforgiving it was and lended a helping hand. And you see that occasionally in the TLPs, but it's a little different because the game, while still difficult, is much easier now with these quality of life things that were added in.
It's funny that your favorite memory, or I mean, most valuable memory of live
Was
included
death.
because you had asked me this earlier, and the story I wanted to tell was also a death.
Oh, all right.
And I remember I told you it was going to be kind of cheesy, but I'll just go and start a little bit
Yeah.
about myself. I was on the Vishan server. My dad, maybe not the most technically well operating oiled machine.
Okay.
We had an old gateway computer, and
Oh
he
yeah.
had some friends. He's a mechanic at an ice cream factory, and the mechanics they would come in for their first shift, and then play all these like Ultima Online and these muds and stuff that were going on in the late
Right.
90s. And so my dad got into this. His friends were like, "Hey, we're getting early access to this beta for EverQuest. It's going to be awesome." I don't even know how they found out about it. I'm not sure that the beta was super well known. Do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, this was back in before the days of like a really well-established internet. And who knows how that I mean, like I said, I wasn't part of the beta. It was just my friend, told me in person, we're like, hey, there's this game. And I think a lot of it was maybe through like magazines and think like gaming magazines and things like that back in the late 90s. That was like a major source of communication in the
It,
in the gaming world.
online forums and stuff like that. I know like once the game launched, it was popular and it was
Yeah,
pretty easy to know about, but I don't know how people would know about like the beta or getting into betas for this stuff.
right.
But um anyways, my dad got into this beta with a couple of the guys. They got sent discs to play EverQuest and test out some of these new features and help. It's really boxy and stuff, but I don't know. I think my dad was really fascinated with the fact that you were in control of a character.
Oh yeah, there
Um,
was nothing like it at the time. This was totally groundbreaking.
and then when EverQuest launched, everybody joined the Vishan server or Vishan. I don't know how most people say it. Um, and so at the time, I was actually really young. In 1999, I was only like 9, going on 10 years old when the game was launched,
Yeah.
and playing on Vishan server. Um, my dad had started a cleric. I guess maybe that group of friends needed a healer,
Hmm.
so he started a cleric. My dad's really like a weird type. He's not able to like sit down for long periods of time. He's really go get him kind of guy. So I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe
Yeah,
playing this,
EverQuest is not the start and then stop in 15 minutes kind of game. And I
and
think
he's
that's
also
something my wife never understood.
super terrible at typing. So and
Uh,
early EverQuest was all typing. There was no voice
right.
communication. Anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, my dad started this character, and he was always like, "Hey, how about you sit here and play my character for me? I got to go get some food or something like that. He gets something going on." And he asked if I wanted to play a couple times. I remember being like, "No, elves and
You weren't into
flying
that kind of stuff as a kid?
no, no." I didn't.
Oh,
Well,
I
I
was.
didn't even know about that stuff yet. I was maybe Harry Potter was just coming out,
Right,
you know.
right.
Um, and so even with Harry Potter, like it didn't really dive into like mythological creatures or fantasy. Really, it was more
Hmm.
witches and wizards, not trolls and elves and stuff. So um, I was playing Madden and FIFA and Need for Speed and you know games on the PlayStation 1 or
Oh, yeah.
Xbox. So playing these, I remember one day my dad got up to go make some food or something, and he was like, "Here, sit here for my character. Don't let me die. This is how you play." And if anything, you just turn around and run towards those guards. This was in actually Misty Thicket. I think it was um, a cleric halfling,
Oh, yeah.
which
Okay.
is maybe the worst kind of cleric. But
Oh, you can't go wrong with Halfling, man.
and I remember he must have come back, and I was like enveloped into the game. He must have said something to me, and I didn't answer him.
He's like, oh no, what have I created here? He got you hooked.
An absolute monster, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember rolling a character very early on. Um, and since I only knew Misty Thicket, we started a druid. I think that was a good like solo character because I don't think we ever planned on being in a guild or anything.
Right.
And then, ironically enough, there's like I said, it's very early on. I found myself in Fires of Heaven somehow. I don't even know how this happened, but Fires of Heaven, for those of you that don't know, is maybe one of the biggest top guilds of all EverQuest history and lore.
Right. And how old were you like when you started with Fires of Heaven? And did they know your age?
No, I like I said, I must have been 9 or 10. But very early on, I realized that nobody wanted to play with a 9-year-old,
Right. Yeah.
especially like maybe someone that was immature too. I
Yeah.
think Fires of Heaven had like an 18-year-old joining policy. Like he must be 18 or old,
Probably. Probably.
teen. Um, and this was before like voice chat.
Right.
I mean, I think Vent came
Yeah, we
out
use
very,
Vent. Mm-hmm. I remember using that.
but I would always say like, hey, my connection or whatever, when that happened. But I just tried to, I guess, be as mature as possible and just show up and heal and not talk so much. And
Right.
also, I mean, not talking so much was a benefit because I couldn't type very fast.
I see.
But
So
I
you
was
kind of
in,
snuck your way into one of these top, well, not one of, I would say like the top rating guild in all of EverQuest throughout, all the different servers.
yeah, there was like what, Flowers of Happiness and
Triton was on
Triton.
Polvar.
Yeah. All big guilds, but Fires of Heaven was known for like rushing, getting through the content, with Fear, the raid leader, the warrior. Um, but anyways, it's so funny. I don't even know how I managed to finagle myself. I think maybe they merged guilds. It was so long ago. They like absorbed some guild that I was in.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
but
oh yeah, I was just saying that I snuck in there, and then as a druid, I wasn't having fun, so I created a high elf mage, and got leveled up and did a bunch of raids with Fires of Heaven. Those are stories for maybe another episode, but that's
what content did you end with Fires of Heaven? Like how far, like what expansion did you get to with them?
so you gotta remember I was in school. I was
Right.
very young.
Right.
Uh, they were bat phoning
Yeah. And like you're at school, you can't tell them, I'm in class right now because they'll be like, wait, aren't you 18?
that, and like when they would bat phone and stuff too,
By
I'd
the
have
way,
to
bad phoning would be like send you, like actually call you or text you and tell you, hey, log on because we want to kill this raid mob now. Because back then you didn't have the agents of change for an instance zone. It would just spawn in what they call now open world. And if you didn't kill it, then some other guild was going to come in there and kill it.
and we weren't letting anybody kill anything.
No.
Um, I had to do so many like tricky, lying, little shit 9-year-old things to keep my identity mostly a mystery. Like if they would call, I would be like, "Oh yeah, it's my brother. I'll just tell him to get on," and then hang up the phone. And plus, like my dad did not. He worked very early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. I
Uh-huh.
was like, I better not be getting no phone calls at 3:30 in the morning. My dad's gonna wring my neck.
So they call on your house phone.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
they have cell phone, but
Right,
just a
right,
land.
right. Yeah. Okay.
Or so being on a landline and dial up, I'd
Right.
just stay logged in, so they couldn't call me, and they would just have to do the shout out. But then I was losing sleep as well, trying to keep an eye on any bat phone in game.
Yeah. So like even today on TLP's time lock progression servers that we play on Mangler and also these new Mischief Thornblade, there'll be guilds like this. And again, the guild we're part of, PALS, is not a guild like that. But now we have dedicated raid nights. Um, we do Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday from like 6 to 10 PST. insert plug here, but um, there's not like you're not it's not mandatory that you're there all the time. It's mandatory that well, it's not mandatory, but in order to bid on items, you need a certain amount of attendance. But um, we understand that life comes before EverQuest. But for a guild like Fires of Heaven or these other top end guilds, that's not always the case. Like if the EverQuest comes first for them quite often. If they lose you to life too often, you probably end up getting the boot for somebody else who's gonna be there all the time, right?
Oh, right. I couldn't, when I was coming back to EverQuest, I took a little bit of a hiatus and, went to the military, got married, had a kid, went to college, all that fun stuff. But then as I came back, I was actually really worried that I didn't know that they had these, agents of change where you could be a little bit more casual. I thought all I knew was very serious raiding, bat phoning, open world targets,
Right.
and
See, I knew the other side of that. So on Povar, when I was playing on Povar, um, I was in more of a casual guild, and we did raid. We had just like pals, we had dedicated raid nights. I was part of Firestormers up until Velius, and then I think a little bit in Luckland, and then I swapped guilds to Utopian, and that was towards the end of Luckland, start of Pop, Plains of Power. And we had, like I said, dedicated raid nights, but in Luckland and in Velius, there were not instances where you could open up your own zone and control it yourself. And so, like we talked about earlier, the guild Triton was on Povar, and they kind of ruled the roost on Povar. And we did rotations with other guilds. We like this week, Utopian's going to raid Vexthal. And then next week, Blades of Law, which is another guild in Povar, is going to do Vexthal because you had to wait, time for all the mobs to respawn. But the funny thing is if at any time Triton decided, hey, we want to raid Vexthal this week, well then guess what? You as Utopian, you're gonna miss your opportunity for Vexthal this week. And it was it was a horrible thing to do, but what could you do? You couldn't out DPS them. You couldn't. They were just too powerful to mess with.
that's much as the reason why I don't like P99. I don't think that that's a server that I could be on because
Right.
just the poop socking and the
Yeah. I mean,
phoning
it's
and
fun
the
to
rushing.
group and level in and have that kind of fun. But for raiding, the TLP servers with the Agents of Change is it's just a game changer. I think that might be something for us. We can transition talking about the TLPs now. We wanted to cover that in our first podcast here and how that's different than the what we call live servers like Vishan or Povar. And that's the big change to me is Agents of Change, and where everyone gets an opportunity to raid these zones and get the raid mobs once per week or however long they lock out.
I mean, yeah, the agents of chains are very nice. You still have to do the keys and obviously that's part of the flagging process to get
Right.
okayed to go into these zones.
Right.
But
go ahead.
I was going to say that the EverQuest is going to be a grind no matter if this is probably TLP is probably the easiest way to play EverQuest, honestly.
Right. And I think in later podcasts we might kind of go over the different expansions. I don't know how far we'll go. Maybe we'll go up into the point where it's like current in Mangler, where we play right now, and talk about those kind of bottlenecks where you have to do flagging, like for instance Kunark, where you have the Vishan's Peak, and also Seblis. I think those are two kind of bottlenecks for raiding.
So actually, if you want to talk about that real quick, maybe we can end the episode right after that. Is talk about maybe the things that we discussed, maybe talking in the podcast. Doing maybe some class breakdowns.
Yeah.
Some zone breakdowns, some expansion breakdowns, and all the little nuances. I know personally, we talked about I want to go to these old zones that I don't really play in, and maybe
Yeah, because
like
there's
just
some
travel
zones I'd
around
never
and
grouped in before, and I'm sure the same goes for you, because if you're on live, sometimes you want to get the level or get the AAs and not kind of mess around. You want to get to that in-game content for the rating, and that's all you focus on. Where on this Stormblade server, I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing a little exploration and a little nostalgia trip, you know?
yeah. Well, we kind of pre-practiced a little bit on Aradune just for like a couple days, and we went to Runny Eye, and that was just an experience in itself, like
Yeah, that was the
having to
first time I
go
ever killed anything in Running Eye, honestly.
or got killed in Runny Eye.
Yeah, I went down a level and the goblins, there was like a little train of goblins. I was like, oh, I'll pull two of them. I came back up with five. And
And
then
an
I,
evil eye.
yeah, yeah, it's fun. But, that's the kind of stuff that's fun. Exploration and, pushing your group to the limit, seeing what you can get away with in a zone, figuring it out.
Yeah. So that's actually, on Thornblade, I started. Well, we did our research. We wanted the most OP kind of group,
Right. Well, the
and
most
we
OP group with us, because we're not the most OP players. I will say
well, that's rude.
that.
I like
Well,
to
we're
think I'm.
not. Well, we're not the people that's going to stay up for 48 hours to get level 50.
That's true. I
That's what I meant.
I I like to think that I'm a decent, knowledgeable player, though.
Yes.
Play
Yes, you
my
are.
character well, and you as well. Um,
Sometimes.
so we're both boxing. We both have one box,
Which
and
he had to, like, not beg, but he was persistent, and I was persistent about not boxing. And then one day I was like, "Hey, I'm going to box." And anyway, it was for the better.
yeah, now I've created a monster.
Yeah, he did.
So we both have one character. We needed a tank. You started Pally, the paladin,
Yep.
and maybe not our original idea.
Um, no, I don't think it was. I think so. The way it was originally, you were going to be a Shadow Knight. I was going to be a monk and a druid, and then you were also going to play a shaman. And
Mm.
then that's what we did on Eridun. And it was working out perfectly. We were having a good time. And then,
But as you got
right,
closer and closer, you didn't know if you wanted to be a monk.
right,
Um,
because I was like, I don't know if I like pulling that much. I was like, do you mind pulling? And you're like, I don't care what I play. I'll be happy with whatever.
And I played a monk on some live servers and tests and stuff. So,
And
um, I started the monk. You got the tank. But
yep.
you were going to start the Shadow Knight, and you logged in and on
Yeah, so
Thornblade
on
and
launch
saw.
day for Thornblade, I made an ogre Shadow Knight because if you're really going to be a Shadow Knight, I'm sorry, but you need to be an ogre for the frontal stun immunity. It's honestly game changing for a tank. But I logged in and there were about 20 ogres all around me, and 15 of them were Shadow Knights. And that was only with around 200-ish people to begin with. And I was like, wait a second, I'm going to be a needle and a stack of needles as a ogre Shadow Knight. And I like to be a little unique, which is part of why I'm a halfling warrior. And so I was like, let me do some research. And that's what I like to do in EverQuest. I like to research. And Poking knows this.
Yes, of course. My late night text while I'm at work,
Yeah,
daydreaming about what we're going to do next, right?
right. I'll be in bed or, watching a show and kind of distracted a little bit on my phone, looking up P99 info on Shadow Knights and Paladins, weighing out the pros and cons. And, make a final decision on that, it was excruciating.
So we made the final decision, or
Yes.
you did, and
Yes.
you have the tank now, and we made a paladin.
Yes,
And
I have
when I say
Elfpaler.
we've decided that we can interchange our characters whenever we need a break and want to play
Yeah,
something else.
yeah, we're comfortable with that. Kind of sharing our accounts, and you know, it that way it doesn't get monotonous. It could be because we're all capable. Both of us are capable of playing all of these classes. I think the two of us can play just about any class. I ended up rolling a bard to level. I mean, only level 5, but that was honestly the first time I played a bard, and I instinctively knew how to like slash melody and play all the songs I needed to play and all that stuff.
Just instinctually, huh?
Yeah, just instinct kicked in and knew what to do. Like I'm a bard today.
And so my main will be the monk Flexen.
Yep.
And then our boxes are Druish the Druid for you.
Yes.
Ports and heals.
Force and
And
heals and snares. Snares isn't important without the Shadow Knight.
oh yes, snares are important. And then slow in, which is our shaman here.
Slows and backup heals.
Which we ran all the way from Hallis day 1, which if you're not familiar is what, a 15 zone run.
What did Zayd God say it was? A
A
beast of a run.
Beast of a run, yes.
Beast of a run. That's quoted.
And yeah, we did that today. No death, 0 death.
The bard died in soul.
The barbarian didn't die though.
The barbarian did not die. Yeah.
And then I claimed my familiar Puppin, so I'm happy about that.
We have a companion with us to keep us company.
I'm sure I may do an intro with like Puppin's point of view, Flexen, Slowen, Pally, and Druish. And it's just like watching these 4 guys, and I don't know what the hell's going on with them.
Yeah.
They stood in a tunnel in East Commonlands for hours and hours and didn't move.
Yeah, so we're doing this podcast, we're all level 3 right now. And when we're done here, we'll probably either break before raid tonight on the Mangler server, because we're still playing on there. We're not leaving Mangler server. We're still raiding there and having fun with our pals. But then on the Thornblade server, we're going to have fun in our EverPALS guild. And, there's not going to be raiding at level 3, but it's going to be just like casual grouping, like I said, exploring new dungeons, and we might even do a podcast like as we're playing, just to kind of get a feel for that and kind of talk about that experience a little bit.
Yeah, and we've already talked to some of the guild members about this podcast and asked them if they wanted to come on, and maybe do a couple of interviews with some of our favorites from the guild that we're in. We're hoping to meet a lot of nice people, obviously, on Thornblade.
For sure.
So, yeah, just have fun with it. Like I said, the most mediocre, low-quality podcast that you could probably think of.
But we're going to put, our true selves into it. Like, it's going to be us. It's not going to, we're going to talk about, beforehand what we plan to talk about, but none of this is scripted. This is totally off the cuff.
It's all scripted. Don't let them lie to you.
Yeah, I'm not that talented, and I can't be on a script for 30 minutes. I'm no actor. But I do want to mention that I made an email account. It's going to be everpalsthornblade@gmail.com. If you like what you're hearing, let us know. If you hate what you're hearing, maybe let Pokin know. If you have a suggestion, if something you want to talk about, let us know, and we'll be glad to do that.
I can't handle the negative feedback. Don't send it to me.
Well, we both have access to that email account, so if it has like an angry face in the subject line, I'll open it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Please preface all emails with angry faces.
Yeah, not too many of those. My ego can only take so much.
Definitely expect the podcast to get better too. Maybe not quality wise, but we're talking about intros and stuff. We didn't really prepare as well as I wanted to. But I know you and I are both busy, and we're
just want to be off. You're just coming off of a 3-night, 12-hour shifts, and I'm in the middle of writing a PhD thesis. So we're busy guys.
Your dissertation, and I'm dealing with crazy people.
Right. But we'll have more episodes. Like I said, talking with people like they're experts in the class. Like we're familiar with all the classes in EverQuest, but we're by no means experts in those classes. So I think it's really nice for people to understand like how those classes evolve in TLPs from all the way from classic to whatever content that you're looking for. And I think you want to know like what the class is going to be later on because I think each class evolves as expansions come out. Don't you think?
Well, yeah, we noticed that how often we were dying into low levels versus how
Oh, totally.
overpowered we are in
Right.
current. So,
Right.
but
But
yeah,
yeah,
I'm excited.
me too.
I think this is going to be I don't know, a nice way to decompress from the week and kind of do a podcast. And I've actually always enjoyed this medium, and I've always been interested in doing one. So I'm glad. I will say it's your idea, but I was really thinking it the whole time. So
Yeah, I kind of like because there's podcasts for EverQuest out there, and we're not trying to compete with anybody because obviously we have no experience in this, and those podcasts are well established, but maybe just like a little different flavor, also be somewhat informative for classes and also expansions, kind of have like a little educational, but we want to keep it really social and fun and not too serious because neither of us are super serious people. At least I'm
yeah,
not.
and actually, before we finish, I don't want to step on these other podcasts'
Not at
toes.
all.
Actually, I was very lucky to be on episode 50 of the Forever Quest podcast.
Yes, check it out.
Um, I love both Sean and Jeff. I listened to their podcast. I was on their podcast. Stellar people.
Yeah, I
And
think
then
that
also,
episode's named West with Pals, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then also the Return to EverQuest guys. I don't know if you listen to that podcast, but those guys are awesome as well. I think it's 6 guys. They're all gnomes, and they are basically going through old content on Aerodune. I think they might, hit up Mischief a little bit, but their production value of their podcast is just to top 10. It's amazing.
Oh,
So,
wow. Wow.
um,
Our
yeah, shout out
production
to them.
will be
They've
much
only
lower.
very much lower. But they have obviously encouraged us to do our own podcast. So we didn't get a chance to reach out to them. I'm sure they'd be supportive. And like I said, we don't want to toe step on anybody, but
Nope.
they've shown us the light on maybe doing a podcast. So we're gonna do it.
All right. I think that's a good
That's it.
spot to end. Um, hopefully, there's more podcasts coming soon. And thanks.
Bye.